Hello, welcome to Shelf Examination Podcast, where we examine items found on the shelves of our libraries.
I'm Joe, the Makerspace Administrators for the libraries in southern Utah.
And I'm Sarah. I am the Reference and Teen Librarian here at the Hurricane Branch Library.
And the queen of all things nerdy.
Oh, nerdy.
Which is good because we are still on our Kaiju review. We are reviewing Kaiju movies as found at our local library. Now, admittedly, we had to go slightly outside the collections this week because of something you said last week.
I know, Rodan. But I did find out they do carry it in Cedar City.
Oh, good. So we could get it. And that is a nice thing about libraries is that we all work together.
Yes.
And so if there's something in all of the libraries and you absolutely have to see it, then you can go ahead and get it.
We have interlibrary loan systems. Most libraries do.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, we've borrowed things from Harvard University. We've borrowed things from, well, Jane's amazing. She's our administrator for interlibrary loans in our branches. And,
get to know your librarians.
Yes, they're amazing. But we've had some from all over the place. And here at our system, we only charge $4, and that's to cover shipping, to ship it back.
Right.
But most places you can get it for a very reasonable price, and you can usually check it out for longer than you would normally be able to.
Right. It's not the standard checkout because they understand, hey, if we're gonna ship this around.
So if I had been smart, I would have gotten an interlibrary loan from Cedar City.
Yes.
I was not smart. I tried to watch it online, and unfortunately the one I had had really terrible subtitles.
I also watched it online, but I had a very interesting experience, and I think that this is going to be one of the main things that I talk about.
Yes.
Okay.
So we are talking about Rodan.
Rodan, the king of the skies, or something.
Monster of the skies.
Monster of the skies.
So we're doing Rodan because we were talking about last time. We talked
Godzilla
about Raids
Again,
Again, which was originally meant to be the warm-up act for a double feature with Rodan.
Now, I tried to substantiate that claim, and I couldn't find anything, especially Rodan came out a year after Godzilla Raids Again.
Yes.
So while I'm not sure that they were shown into theaters at this, although they probably were, because back then things would be into theaters for a much longer run, I think that they were maybe developed together.
That would make sense.
Because they both have a similar sort of like we both pulled from the same budget pool. In other words, neither of them
had a lot of budget.
Quite the budget that the first Godzilla
Rodan
movie
had more than Godzilla Raids Again.
I would think so, just from what was on the screen. Yeah. So my experience watching this movie, I started by looking for it on archive.org, and I found two versions. Mm-hmm. And the first one that I started watching was the English version.
Blah.
Well, hold on. I know. And I wanted to be that way too.
But no, I am definitely not. People are like subs versus dubs, and I'm either or. I really do. But I grew up and I watched Rodan, the American version, and there were just little things that they threw in to try and that word to make it more regional to Americans. I cannot do this.
I don't even know the word that you're searching
colloquialisms.
for. Oh, okay. So here's I started watching the English version, and then I went, I should check out the Japanese version, see which one I like better. And I immediately noticed that the English version had a narrator over everything. Whereas the Japanese version just let the scenery and the scenes
tell the story. Yeah, I kind of felt like I was being talked down to. It's like, okay, let me explain what's happening. And I'm like, hey, you don't need to do that.
In the Japanese version, we'd see, the city and the countryside and the people going to work. In the American version, on this scenic countryside, we have the workers getting ready for their day in the mines. And I'm like, now, on the one hand, I'm sitting here going, I want to hate this.
Yeah.
I want to hate this. But I wasn't watching it with my full attention.
So you just kind of...
So I kind of appreciated having the narrator tell me when
like
something was
someone reading
happening.
The subtitles out loud to you.
But then it got worse. Because when the actors started speaking, the voice actors that they had doing the voiceover work for them, while doing it all in the Shaw voice.
Ugh.
And immediately I was like, I want to hate this. But then I remembered there's another TV show that I watch called The Chosen. Have you seen The Chosen?
A long time ago.
Okay. It's still ongoing.
Oh, no, sorry, I was thinking like the horror movie.
No, that's completely different.
Totally different. No, the Chosen, the Life of Christ one. Yeah, okay.
The Chosen is all about the life of Christ, and it's filmed in Texas and
Utah.
And all of the actors put on this vaguely Middle Eastern accent the whole time. And very few of the actors. A few of the actors do have accents. The guy who plays Simon Peter, that is his natural voice. That's just the way that he talks. But everybody else is either American or Australian, and they're putting on this vaguely Middle Eastern accent. And here's the thing. I kind of like the reminder that this is a different culture. And so...
Well, and it works when everybody is doing it equally.
Yeah.
Not like, Kevin Costner in Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, where everyone has a British accent except him. And then it's like, hi, I'm the token American.
Right. Or, yeah, if you get that one actor who's not doing it, it sticks out really badly. And, yeah, in this movie, they were all doing the Chinese voice, and I had to go, I don't hate it in The Chosen. I can't hate it here. And so I watched the Americanized version. Now, what I found out was that this was the version that was released to American audiences originally. This wasn't done.
This is the one I saw on This is one I saw on TBS and stuff. Yes.
But I had to say, despite the fact that it was, like you were saying, talking down to people, and despite the fact that they were all doing the soul voice, I kind of liked it. And it made me realize that bin ein Amerikan. I'm the one that they made that version for. I hate it. I want to be highbrow on this one. I want to be all like, yes, no, we should.
You're just too American.
I'm just too. No, I'm not American, but I definitely appreciated what they were doing and how they made this work for American audiences. And as much as I want to be like they made it work by for American audiences by making it dumber, which they did, but I appreciated it. I don't know what that says about me. So that was my experience watching it.
The reason why they did it is there's a lot of things that in the movie, in Rodan, that is common in Japanese culture. Yeah. And if you aren't familiar, especially, when it was made in the 60s,
absolutely.
50s, 60s, the Americans were just getting over the whole we hate Japan from World War II. And so we didn't know a lot about, we knew about the geisha girls, and we knew not a whole lot of, real...
Japan was this far off.
True culture.
It was very interesting to look at this as an American production, or a production made for Americans in Japan, as a cultural opportunity. And for that, I kind of really appreciate what they were doing. Now, my other thought on this movie, let's skip ahead to when Rodan shows up. We'll come back later because we do have to talk about this. But when Rodan shows up, okay, when we saw Godzilla, we talked about that one cool moment.
Yes.
And Godzilla, I would argue, had several cool moments.
Oh, yes, it did.
But it definitely had that one cool moment.
First opening moment where it's like, dun, 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 Godzilla, boom, 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 boom.
Okay. In King Kong, the one cool moment was hanging from the Empire State Building and fighting.
Swatting around the planes,
right. What was the one cool moment in Godzilla Raids Again? Right. What was the one cool moment in this movie? This movie, I think, has one. For me, it was when the airplane pilots were chasing down this hypersonic pterodactyl, and they go, and mind you, all the effects are like Thunderbirds are go level, quite frankly. I mean, I wasn't wowed by the effects. I appreciated them.
Oh, Thunderbirds are go.
Yes.
Oh, I haven't thought about that in a while.
But hey, maybe we'll do a review of that one. I think that's on our shelves.
Please not right now.
We'll do a palate cleanser in between. But and then he does the flyby on the city on the set of the city, but never mind. The miniature set of they did a good job with the audio where we rumble, boom, and we saw cars flipping up and fly. That moment was the moment when I went, that was cool. That was pretty cool. It had that one cool moment.
Yeah, you see it, and I was like, that would totally be a Maverick Top Gun thing. He'd totally do that.
Yes, it looked to me like Top Gun versus a hypersonic pterodactyl.
Turkey, I like that.
Top Gun versus the hypersonic turkey with
that is going to be a new key phrase.
That's what we're going to name the. That's what we're going to name this episode: Top Gun versus the hypersonic turkey. But what did Godzilla Raids Again didn't have that cool
Not
moment
really
at
no.
all. And I would say that the original Godzilla, I don't know. He had the destruction of the train. He had the destruction of the city a little bit. It wasn't really at a pivotal time, but that was a pretty cool moment.
I think the only thing that I was like, okay, that was cool, was that when it was the humans in Raids Again. That was, everybody lights out, silence, nothing goes wrong, and they were like, and then the explosion happens.
That's true.
And you see everyone just kind of turn, and they're like, we're so screwed. And it's just that moment of tension.
I hate you bringing that up because, one, you're right, and two, that completely justifies like the 15-minute detour with those prisoners.
I know, that was terrible.
Was so bad, but it
but
leads
that moment
to this
was so cool.
Moment. It did. You know what? You're right. I'm going to give it to you on that one. But it takes a while.
But it had nothing to do with the effects or the creatures or the plot.
No, but it was still a very tense and a very good moment. And I think that this movie had one of those moments.
Yes, Top Gun versus the Supersonic Turkey.
What I don't think that it had was personality. The pterodactyl was just a origami bird flapping in the wind. There was we barely even got to look at its face half the time.
And honestly, the second pterodactyl, the second Rodan, and the name Rodan is derived from the word pterodactyl,
right?
But with
they modified it a little bit, kind of like they did with the Ankylosaurus.
Well, it's because they took ptero, they got the ro from that, and in Japan they don't have the ul sound opposite, and it's the RLD sound, so it came out as Rodan,
right?
Because they just squished pterodactyl, and they chose a way to do it without.
And
way different from any way we would do.
It's lasted.
But the way the characters are written out in Japanese, that's how it turned out.
Yeah.
I looked it up.
So it did, I will say Rodan did have at least one cool moment.
Yeah.
And that, in my mind, makes it better than the previous movie because it wasn't
The
Raids Again. However, let's go back to the beginning of this movie.
Hi, we're two miners, and we're going to go in. We're like, what's going on here?
Goro and all that.
Starts with a Y.
Oh, shoot. Nah, I'm not even going to look it up. Because
they're only in there for like 2 minutes.
And here's the thing. When does Rodan show up?
Halfway through the movie.
Halfway through. What do we have before that point?
We have a totally different monster!
Another complete... It's miners versus giant...
larva.
Caterpillars.
Yeah, giant larva.
So what the heck was going on? Were they like working on giant larva monster movie, and they were like, guys, this isn't working. We need something cooler. Bring in the origami bird.
I don't know, because I thought the same thing. We were watching two different monster movies at the same time because they go into the mine. They've been doing some blasting, blah blah blah, and you just hear scream, 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 and a little bit later, and the tunnel floods, which sucks.
Yeah.
But. And then they find one of the bodies of the two sucker miners.
And there's a lot of intrigue about the various guys. People think that Goro, his temper has caused him to kill somebody.
Yeah.
And there's he's dating Goro's daughter, so of course he wants to give him the benefit of the doubt, and so he's trying to clear Goro's name. Like there's a lot of
there's a lot going on.
The B track on this one for the first half of the movie had a lot of good intrigue, a lot of good story going on, a lot of interesting... And then, of course, he loses his memory.
And there goes that out the window.
Well, except that ends up being what brings us to Rodan.
Right, exactly.
Because...
So, what happens...
I did kind of like this scene.
Is the tunnel floods, and one of the bodies comes back, and it's been viciously slashed up. And that's where they get the idea of maybe it was a murder. Because... my rocks falling down into mine or would not
like
slash, and drowning doesn't cause slashes, so that was where that came from. And then later on, they still haven't found the second body, and then you have the scientist. I think he's a scientist. Like I said, really bad subtitles. And the scientist and his fiance are at home, and their house gets attacked by this giant caterpillar.
No, he's just a miner.
Oh, is he just a minor? See, this is how bad that was.
Mr. Handsome in this movie is just another one of the minors.
Okay, well, his and his fiance's house get attacked by a giant caterpillar.
By giant caterpillars.
And
I will say these caterpillars weren't like obviously a dude crawling around in a suit.
It really was.
The
it's almost Michelin Man looking.
The effects on it were just not bad.
But they weren't great.
They weren't great. They looked like basically they had built a giant caterpillar and were just kind of shaking it in front of the camera.
I mean, honestly, I liked the quadruped suit of the ankylosaur better in Raids Again.
I almost appreciate that they didn't do that, but that's okay. We got different opinions.
But yeah, they both left a lot to be desired.
But so yeah, he goes back into the mines, and the next thing we know, he's back on the surface and he has no memory. But I love the scene where she's trying to nurse him back to health.
Yeah, he goes into the mine and
she brings him a nest.
An egg. Look what my pet birds.
And of course, it's that bird egg.
Yeah.
And
as it starts to hatch, she's like, memory.
And
it's attacking me, memory.
I'm not sure whether the bird egg hatched or whether he saw Rodan's hat. There, it crosses over.
They did this little weird overlay thing.
Great scene, and I actually really thought that was some great storytelling.
Yeah.
But at that point, giant caterpillars are gone, and now it's Rodan.
What he remembers, when he finally remembers, is he's going through the tunnels, and he suddenly gets surrounded by these giant caterpillars in this room, giant cavernous room, where there's a big egg. And then... And it's like the caterpillars are protecting the big egg.
And see, this isn't the first time. No, maybe this is the first time, but this wouldn't be the last time that in a kaiju movie we had one monster for part of it, and that monster was a herald for something else.
Right.
But usually when the second monster shows up, its first course of business is killing the heralds and establishing. There's no interaction.
Dominance.
Yeah, there's no interaction between Rodan and the caterpillars.
He sees Rodan hatch, and then that's when he stops having memory, and then it's like, okay, caterpillars have done their job, and we're done.
I'm not really sure how that caused amnesia. I assume there was some accident afterwards where he bumped his head or something, because that wasn't that traumatic.
No.
So this split, this divide between
so it's like, and the caterpillars are done. We're going to talk about flying things now.
Yeah, and now we're going to have Top Gun versus Supersonic Turkey, and it was not bad. Second half, and after watching the movie once,
they were supposing that the nuclear testing is what disturbed Rodan that caused it to hatch, and I was like, okay. I thought we were talking about mining.
We're on this again? Okay, no worries.
I was like, I thought we were talking about mining, because mining's what woke up the caterpillars.
Yeah.
I'm confused.
No, I agree. Yeah, entirely different motives in the second half. It was an entirely different movie. And so after I finished watching it once, and I had this good taste in my mouth from like cool moments, cool
You went back
airplanes.
And analyzed it.
I went back and watched it the second time just to kind of see what I missed. And I did not love the, skip the first half of this movie, because
it's a different movie.
It's a different movie, and it's not a good movie.
No. Oh, they did exonerate the other guy. It was not murder. Obviously, it was the caterpillars, because they found him munched on too. So. And
they found, the caterpillars. Yes, it was a complete story in the first half, and it was, for what it was, not told bad. But then it was juxtaposed against a much better.
Yeah.
Or here's
different.
The thing. I've been thinking, what am I looking for? Because when I watched the original Godzilla, I was like, ugh. I wanted to like it, but I didn't love it. What am I looking for? And I'll tell you what I'm looking for. I'm looking for a good time.
Yeah, you want to be entertained.
And the second half on this movie delivered on that.
Yeah. So
it was ridiculous, but it delivered.
Yeah, it's Rodan.
Well, I mean, why the heck is he able to fly and do these supersonic maneuvers?
I want to know how a pterodactyl can go supersonic, because let's face it, they're gliders.
Yes. And
so what is he climbing? Is he climbing Tokyo Tower in order to dive down and get that fast?
And the fighter jet's following behind him going, I just can't keep up with him. He's going too fast. Is it radioactive gas?
I'm like, what is he riding?
Yeah. What's his propulsion system? But you know what? Don't think too hard about it.
Yeah.
It's cool.
And we've learned a lot about prehistoric creatures since this movie was made.
Oh, for sure, for sure.
So I don't know in the 1960s whether they knew that, physically
that they were gliders.
They could only be gliders.
But they knew that birds propelled themselves by flapping their wings.
Yeah.
And in order to flap your wings to supersonic speeds,
oh my goodness,
it would have to be essentially the equivalent of a hummingbird
or a bumblebee
at that size. And at that size, its wings would be moving so fast that it would be causing sonic booms with every flap, which is pretty awesome, actually.
Yeah, if you think about it. But at one point in the movie, he goes to. Starts with an H. It's the 6th largest city in Japan. It's in South Japan.
I remember going, ooh, new location. They're not hitting the same city every single time,
it's not always
which
Shinjuku,
is pretty cool.
Tokyo. No, but it was, and it wasn't Osaka this time. It was further south.
Yeah, but I can't remember the name of the city.
It starts with an H,
and I'm not going to look it up. I'm not going to worry about it right now.
But so he lands there. He actually gets kind of shot down.
Yeah,
Rodan does. It wounds one of his wings, and he lands, and he just starts flapping those wings, and the wind goes flying, the buildings topple. And
it reminded me of the stories of The Rock.
Yes,
and I feel like they were trying to evoke The Rock with its wings that were so big that it does all.
ROC Rock, not Dwayne The Rock Johnson.
Not Dwayne The Rock. ROC, a giant bird in mythology and in
Prometheus.
Was it Prometheus? Prometheus, I thought, was just a regular vulture, but it
depends on what part of Greece you're getting the story from.
It was a part of Sinbad. Mm-hmm. It's been a part of several different stories. I think Popeye meets Sinbad the Sailor. He's got a rock too. So
there's another B movie for you.
There's another. Hey, well, I could talk about that one for a while, but we're not going to worry about that right now. So, Rodan. Let's talk about ranking. So you and I both have the same ranking right now.
Uh-huh.
King Kong #1.
Well, yes.
The original Godzilla.
Yes.
And then Godzilla Raids Again below that.
I put this above Raids Again.
So you would put this above. You know what? I agree with you. It's not quite enough to knock the original Godzilla out. Despite the fact that I was kind of lukewarm on the original Godzilla, this still feels like it had the direct-to-video sequel.
Yeah, and the original Godzilla at least had a complete and fluid through line.
It did.
Where this one feels like two different stories. They just happen to mishmash together.
I will say, if we took this movie and split it, and there are a couple of Rodan scenes in the first half of this movie, but we could really easily edit those out.
Yeah, because it's
and
like
make them their own thing. They were inserted to create continuity.
Yeah, basically all it was, oh my gosh, this thing knocked me out of the sky, and I took a picture of it, but you only see like a blurry side of its wing or something.
In the American version, there were news reports all the time.
Yeah, but no one knew what it was.
We suspect that there are 2 of them, or something like that. Yeah, if we had taken the first half of this movie with the caterpillars and judged it separately from the second half, I think Rodan, the second half, would stay where it is, but Rodan, the first half, would actually be below Godzilla Raids Again. So in a weird way, this movie straddles Raids Again.
But that was another thing that I was like, wait a minute. So the nuclear blasting / mining woke up Rodan.
Right.
It caused Rodan to hatch.
Or created Rodan or something. Yeah.
Some such nonsense.
Yeah, he's definitely nuclear adjacent.
Yes. And then all of a sudden, there's another one? Where did this one come from?
Yeah, and I should mention this. In the American release, at the end when they finally defeated the Rodans.
The original one.
Both of them.
Yeah. Well, they didn't actually beat the second one. The second one gave up.
Exactly. They had not the announcer, Mr. Handsome actually was standing on a hill and had one of the dumbest soliloquies.
I mean, so
you talk about talking down to American audiences. I swear this was talking down to the talking
everyone.
Down. As a man in the modern world, I wondered, how would I ever go? Shut up, dude. Come on. At least write better. But man, when the jets were chasing after the hypersonic turkey, that was sure cool, you know.
No, I was like, okay, the second one is from somewhere, and it happens to be the exact same
and it's a
mutated species.
They indicated that it was a mate?
Yes, and I'm like, but he just hatched.
Well, don't think too... Boy, that's... Yeah, no, really don't think too hard. I'm thinking too hard about it, and I'm regretting it.
I put that thought in your head. Yes. I did. Anyway.
And she is proud of that moment.
Oh, boy. Gloat, gloat, gloat. Anyway, so, yeah, suddenly they're mates because they defeat the original Rodan, and the second Rodan just can't survive without their mate. And so
gives up and dives into the tragic. Of course, he'll show up in later movies.
Well, yeah. Shows up in
know.
Godzilla all the time.
Yeah.
Sometimes working with Godzilla, sometimes working against Godzilla.
I mean, I think
because they're monsters.
At the time, a lot of this just feels like your standard monster movie.
Yeah.
It feels like we've got a monster, we've got a crisis, we need to deal with it. Again, there's no personality in the creatures and the characters.
Not like King Kong.
Not like in King Kong. I think
no, they eventually get back to that.
They will be getting to that in the Godzilla movies, but they're not there yet.
No.
And so, as a standard monster movie, they had to defeat the monster. And then, later on, they're like, did people like that monster? Maybe we should bring it back and give it a personality. And every time it's going to be like, again?
Yeah. Spoiler alert, the monsters die, handsome stranger marries his girlfriend, and we all live happily ever after.
That's right.
Until they have to rebuild the cities again.
Yeah. I guess I will say, they're destroying different cities every time. So it's not like, I feel like in modern movies, it's like, hey, he's attacking Tokyo. Again. How many times have we rebuilt Tokyo?
Or New York.
Again.
Look, the Avengers have got something else in New York.
Yeah, exactly. So
Let's see, London gets attacked a lot. Shanghai gets attacked a lot.
I appreciate that when Washington, D.C. is attacked, it's just like it's destroyed and we're done. There's no like...
ID4.
Yeah, in 94 or whatever movie destroys Washington. It's just a set piece getting destroyed. Great. Let's not dwell on it. Let's just let's up the stakes and destroy something that people recognize from a postcard. Yeah.
There's an entire Gundam show where all of the scenery is drawn off of postcards the artists found at Narita Airport.
Wow. I have not watched Gundam. I am aware of Gundam. I like the robot designs, but I haven't actually sat down and watched the show. So maybe that's a future shelf examination.
My husband owns most of it.
Well, there we go. And this is why she's the queen of all things nerdy. Because she's married to the king of all things nerdy.
It's true. He knows the names of all 9 ring wraiths. And which one is the woman?
Didn't even...
He says they belong to the kings and queens of men.
Oh,
it's the 7th one.
And that was the thing. Like, I never knew this before, and now I'm kind of like, oh, great, I got to dive into this. So,
dun dun dun! This is what happens when you talk to a librarian.
Let's put a cap on Rodan here. I think we got our ranking. The next movie that we are going to be looking at, we actually have to once again go outside of our collection for, but I don't think that we can skip this one. We have to do King Kong versus Godzilla because that is the one that justified putting King Kong on this list. I think that it's also going to be very interesting to see how... and
they revisit it later. That just a couple years ago, they did Kong versus Godzilla.
Yes, it's been... we have those ones in our collection.
Yes, we do. We have the new ones.
And it's definitely been something that has been a well that they can return to many, many times because it's such a great matchup.
Yeah.
And it really, in a lot of ways... Now, this one also has a Western version and a Japanese version, and we will talk about. But which one are you going to seek out?
I don't know. It depends on which one I find. And if I can only find bad subtitles, I'm going to do the American one. The bad subtitles drove me bonkers.
There's something even worse than dubs. Apparently, it's bad subs.
Bad subtitles. Oh no, I cannot tell you how often they'd say Rodan, and it would be like chicken a la king, and I'm like, no, he said Rodan.
It's like TikTok subtitles these days where they let the AI do it and then all of a sudden you're like going, no, that was not what came out of his mouth. Apparently it's been going on since before AI. AI did not create this problem.
No. And it also depends. Like the very first time I saw Yu-Gi-Oh, the anime, was before it had been licensed in America.
Oh, so you watch it in Japanese.
With the subs. This one had been done in China. So someone had translated it from Japanese to Chinese and then Chinese to English. And the reason why we knew they were terrible was not only was it, some of the names are all screwed up and whatever, but all of the names of the cards in Yu-Gi-Oh! Are in English because the person who updated the card game is Pegasus, who's American.
Right.
So all the cards, even in the Japanese version, are in English.
English to begin with, and so they screwed them up.
So you hear Blue Eyes, a White Dragon, and you Green Eyes, White Dragon. Harpy Lady, very happy lady. And we were like, what?
I kind of like Harpy Lady better.
It's supposed to be Harpy Lady.
Oh, okay.
But they say very happy lady. We're like,
in the subtitles. And
I'm like, look at them, they're harpies, obviously. And I'm not going to tell you what they said about Dark Magician. We were like, what now? Dark Magician, and it comes up with something like purple magic user. We're like, that's not at all what they said.
No, I would say they understood the assignment. No.
Green eyes, a white dragon. I'm like, green? It's blue, obviously.
I kind of wonder how that works in different languages. But
sorry, total tangent there.
No, this is the tangent show. Let's wrap this up. I'm looking forward to Godzilla versus King Kong.
Yes.
The original Godzilla versus King Kong, when King Kong was still a dude in a monkey suit.
Yes.
This is going to be an experience.
Godzilla was still a dude with short arms and a lizard suit.
I will say this. In the original King Kong, it was super expensive because they did it all stop motion.
Yeah, they did.
Putting a dude in a monkey suit was a much more
cost-effective
way to just keep on making these movies. There's a reason why there wasn't a second King Kong movie.
No, there wasn't.
In America in stop motion because they couldn't afford it.
They couldn't afford it, and Japan got really, really good at doing micro sets.
Yeah.
Those miniatures.
Yeah, no, they did great in the original one, and they're getting better every time.
Yeah, they can reuse them,
reset and take another shot. Yeah.
So they'd put them in the different movies over and over and over, kind of like the Phantom of the Opera set.
Is there a wiki out there where somebody has documented all the different sets and which movies they have been in? I would be surprised if there wasn't.
I would be surprised if there wasn't. I mean, and then you hear about these things, it's so funny. Like the original Battlestar Galactica TV series.
Yes.
The pilot, when they're down in the underground, is in the original Phantom of the Opera set.
Ooh.
I know, and they accidentally set it on fire. They're like, we're going to get killed. We're going to get killed if we don't do this.
And that was the last time it was seen.
No, they got it out, but it was really funny.
I'm going to have to rewatch it. It's been a long time since I've seen Battlestar Galactica. I watched it on the original TV.
Oh, yeah, me
on
too.
the original TV run, and I went back and watched it
Dirk
again.
Benedict and...
Right, and when I rewatched it, it was after the new series had come out, and I did not like the new series.
It was so dark.
It was dark, and it was political, and I was like, listen, one thing that I loved about the original series was that in every episode, you're going to see a spaceship shoot down another spaceship. And it's probably going to be the same footage that we saw last week, but I don't care. Spaceship shot down spaceship, and that's what I want to see. That's what I'm here for.
Actually, part of the reason why there was only one season of that was because they had full-size ships.
Oh, no, they had great sets.
That you had the actors that were in, those were full-size, fully made ships.
The external shots?
No, the external shots are a little different. No, anytime you actually saw an actor, though, like they would have a blue screen going past behind them, and so they had 3 or 4 actual ships made.
I knew that they did because they had several episodes where you would see the full hangar, and it wasn't a matte painting.
No, it was not.
They had built the whole ship.
Yeah, but the outside shots were definitely models.
Yes. Okay, I was going to say.
But if you ever saw the actors,
faith in myself as a child.
If you ever saw the actors, both in ships and they're talking at each other in cockpits.
Oh.
Those are full-size ships.
Yeah, they weren't they?
That movie was that show was so expensive.
It was. No, it had like $1 million per show budget, which was unheard of at the time.
But it was an amazing. Their effects were pretty good for being a TV series in the early '80s.
And I will say their stories weren't bad. Maybe we'll explore that in a future shelf examination. But
we'll do TV series.
I've been Joe.
And I'm Sarah.
And we invite you to do some shelf examination of your own at your local library. Thanks so much for listening.
Have a good night.